Okay, this review has been a long time coming. I thought I didn't have enough test footage yet, but as it turns out, it's all right. And in fact, some of it is about a year old. So yes, it's certainly time for me to do this. This is made by Windlass Steel Crafts. It's part of their Cobra Steel line, which is based on historical swords, but with a modern tactical spin. The blade is made of 1095 high carbon steel, tempered to a Rockwell hardness of 48 to 52, which is somewhat on the mild side, at least by nowadays standards. And the grip is a rubber overmold. And this is a very, very affordable sword, for a functional sword. Of course, there are plenty of cheapo wall hangers. I don't know for sure if it is full tang, in the sense whether the tang goes all the way through the pommel as well, or if it's just the grip. But regardless, there's no problem. I tested this and it is very sturdy, no doubt about it. So no worries about that. Generally, any kind of rubber overmold like that, there's not that much that can go wrong. If you have a threaded assembly, it can come loose, the pommel can, fall off, worst case scenario, or the guard can come loose. In this case, it's all one piece. And really the only drawback here potential is that the rubber is a little easier to damage. So it could tear, or, if you're rough with it, if you drop it on some gravel, it will definitely accumulate some more wear and tear. As far as the blade is concerned, it does come sharp, and that is worth pointing out because Windlass generally offers their blades unsharpened, and then you have to either do it yourself or use the sharpening service that, for instance, Comparatively or other online stores offer. The Cobra line, they all come sharp, and it is a decent edge, definitely. Definitely for practical purposes, it is sufficient. I generally like blades extra sharp, so for me, I would prefer to sharpen it some more. But it's definitely no issue. And I know I say definitely a lot. I definitely say definitely a lot. But who cares? So the edge out of the box definitely comes sharp enough. Should I try this again? No, let's just keep rolling. And you can cut with it just fine. Be it water bottles, tatami mats, newspaper rolls, whatever you happen to have, that all works fine. And considering that $54 at Cult of Athena, this is a steal. In fact, sometimes people ask me for recommendations for swords under $100, and I typically have to tell them you really can't get anything decent at that price for the most part, because overall you get what you pay for. It's definitely true. There we go again, definitely. It is true for sword reproductions, and in this case, it's surprising how much quality you get. 1095 high carbon steel, you don't usually find that at this price, under $100. And the construction is all solid. There is one issue with the blade, namely that, as mentioned, the tempering is somewhat soft. And you'll see right here, I'll show you a close-up, the point is bent out of shape. It's also because it tapers to a very fine point. So that's the only issue I ran into. But I think this happened when I threw it. Clearly that is nothing but abusive testing intended to find any potential weaknesses. It shows that the steel is softer than it should be, ideally, but at the same time, it's quite significant abuse. The edge retention is also not going to be perfect. So this is after the testing. Apparently I forgot to do it before, which is smart. But so after the tests, it doesn't cut properly anymore. No, at least this kind of paper. Let's try the thicker paper. Yeah, that's still okay-ish. For a light blade like this, I would certainly prefer to be sharper, but there's really nothing to complain about. In particular, considering the price. If this was, say, 150, then I could nitpick a little more, or if it was 200 even. But at 55, I mean, this is really hard to pass up. It has stood up to the tests quite well. I did some abusive tests, chopping wood, which of course this kind of blade is not designed for at all. But it took it just fine. It didn't get any damage. There is in fact no edge damage whatsoever. The only damage is really the bent tip. Grip is fine. As said, this is not going to loosen up anytime soon, or ever probably. The handling is remarkable. It's an extremely light sword. You can swing this all day, no problem. You can very easily stop it in pretty much any position, and yeah, it's a joy to handle. No problem at all. Balance is, with a light blade like this, is not an issue. It is balanced so that you can cut decently with it, but it's really more of a thruster primarily. The handle shape allows a variety of thrusts. You could do a hammer grip thrust, you could do a saber thrust in different variations. You could even do an ice pick grip if you wanted to. It is short enough for that. You could choke down on the pommel for extra leverage in the cut. And now that I hold it like this and swing it, I'm starting to think that it is probably really a 3/4 tang. It doesn't feel like there is any metal in the pommel. I could be wrong, but that's what it feels like when holding it like this. But as said, structural integrity is not a problem with this design. And yeah, versatility is certainly there. This is in fact one of the things that I would recommend to people who ask about blades for home defense, because this is very useful in confined spaces, of course, due to the short length. Whether or not you should use a blade for home defense is an entirely different discussion. You could argue that blunt weapons are a lot better for that, also legally speaking. But then again, it depends on where you live, what your view is, and all of that. So practically speaking, this would certainly be useful. If you stood in a doorway or on a stairwell or anything like that, and then somebody tried to get past that, they would have a hard time. The sheath is nothing to write home about. It's a very simple thing. It's just 2 layers of leather riveted together, and it's got this belt loop here. So it fits, sort of. I mean, it does fit. It just won't hold it in perfectly, and well, it's better than nothing. I mean, I'm not impressed by this, but for a short blade like this, it would be sufficient. And it's really just kind of a freebie, so to speak. So yes, this is probably the best $55 sword, or let's just say sub $100 sword that I've seen so far. I may be forgetting some. In general, tactical swords tend to be cheaper, but still usable, functional. So if you are looking for a under $100 sword, they do have a variety of others as well. I'm going to post a link down below in the description. So the entire Cobra Steel series should be comparable because they all use the same steel, same tempering, same kind of grip, although there were a few that seem to have a hard plastic grip, not rubber. But that seems to be the only difference. Other than the shape, they seem to be made in the same way. So I expect all of them to be at the same quality range. So I would certainly recommend all of them. And there it is. I hope you found this review helpful or entertaining or whatever else, and thanks for watching.